Okay, wonderful. Then I'm very happy to welcome all of you to this webinar on the topic of integration of networks for cycling as a mode of transport and for recreational cycling. So bringing those two worlds together, we are having this webinar in English today. I'm very happy to be your moderator. My name is Dagmar Köhler. I work for Mobycon, and we've been working with Mette and the whole team to make this happen. So the topic of this webinar today is how can we plan cycle infrastructure that delivers for both for everyday life or for commuting, but also for recreation? Or how can you can also ask how can recreational networks also deliver for daily cycling? Or how can we plan those two functions in a more integrated way? And why should we actually do this? So that's the topic of this morning. I'm very happy to see you have all found your way here and are going to spend up to an hour and a half with us on this topic. And all of you have been invited because you're either working for a supercycle highway office or are working for a municipality that looks into either recreational networks or commuter cycling networks, or maybe even both already, or maybe both in the future. We'll see. And please let me inform you that this webinar will be recorded, but only the presentation part will be made available publicly in the future. We will have questions and answers after the presentations, and this part will be only recorded for internal use and not go public. So you can ask all your questions, preferably in the chat, please, at any time, and we'll answer them all after the presentations. So the goal of today, and I hope that at the end of this webinar, you will all be inspired in some way to understand a little bit what we mean with working in an integrated way with that and how this can look like and what that can mean for you. And therefore, we'll take a look to the Netherlands. But before we do this, I'll be happy to hand over the mic to Mette Rode-Bøvat. She's the head of the project at the Danish Organization for Nature and Coastal Tourism, and she'll give a bit of context to this webinar.
Thank you, Dagmar. It will also be in English, as I agreed with Dagmar today. Most of you I have met, some of you I haven't met. I would like to welcome you also on behalf of the project that I'm head of, which is looking into developing and integrating a cycle node network in Denmark. We have been working 3 years now together with almost 30 municipalities in Denmark, and we have been looking very much into the inspiration and the knowledge from the Netherlands, but also from other countries. And in this project, we have been working with Mobycon together with other Dutch and Danish providers in trying to get the recreational network in a Danish context to work as good as it can do. One of the things that we look into with this webinar, or we try to get inspiration on in this webinar, is the integration of networks. We have some municipalities both in the region of Jutland, Middle Jutland, or region in the middle of Jutland, and in the capital region that are municipalities working both in a recreational network but also in commuting network. And there has been some questions and there has been some curiosity on how to do this, how to provide a good network, how to gain from having both networks, how to connect the networks. And on that platform, we contacted the offices of the Supercycle Highway in the capital region, but also in Jutland region, the middle of Jutland. And we decided to join together in this webinar and invite municipalities, as Dagmar said, that are either working with both network types or trying to connect it, or just working with one of either. I won't say so much more either. I really hope you have good questions for Mobycon. Mobycon is a very professional and very skilled and international consultancy house, and we are very happy to work together with them on these specific issues regarding integration of networks. So thank you very much and enjoy.
Thank you, Mette. Thanks a lot for setting the tone. And then I would suggest we don't delay this any further and jump into the content. I'll be happy to introduce the two speakers you will be hearing in the next half hour, after which we'll get to your questions. First is, these are my colleagues Robin van der Grient and Bernard Ensink. They are both based in the Netherlands at the moment, both are senior advisors at Mobycon, a Dutch mobility specialist firm. While I'm actually sitting in Berlin today, they are based in Delft today, and they both work internationally, including some Scandinavian projects, but also, for example, German projects and the cycling strategy for Heidelberg, the city of Heidelberg in Germany, and many, many more. And first up will be Robin van der Grient. He is a traffic planner. He has experienced Scandinavia as well, next to the Netherlands and Germany, because he lived and worked in Sweden's Helsingborg, so as close to Denmark as it can get, which allowed him to also explore Denmark during his years working in Sweden. He's now going to present you how a recreational cycling network is being set up and how it enables people of all types to cycle and how this links to commuter networks. Please ask any questions you have. Please write them in the chat already during his presentation. We'll take the questions at the end, but then you don't forget them and we'll make sure we can pick it up. Yeah, I'm handing over to Robin.
Hey, and thanks, Dagmar. The Netherlands has approximately 11.1 million recreational cyclists, and 35% cycle at least once a week. Like this trip that I recently took with my wife and son. We live in Delft, which is one of the most urban parts of the country, and in our free time, we like to go out from the city. So we went on a bike tour through nature and made this stop at a local cafe in the countryside. For this, we made use of the recreational cycle node network that can be found throughout the entire country. Each node has a number, and by combining them, we could create our own round trip. Here you can see the node network around Delft, as well as a trip that we took to the cafe. You can see the different segments and numbers, and this provides a lot of flexibility for people. They can combine all of these numbers into a route that people are comfortable with. For us, this was only a short trip, which was perfect to do with our son. And it was a good experience. And especially being able to combine a visit into nature with a visit at the local cafe made that extra appealing. The fact that we can rely on safe cycle infrastructure throughout the entire network with traffic-calm streets and dedicated cycle routes means that it's a nice activity to do as a family and that we feel comfortable doing that together. We don't even have to think about it. It also means that it is attractive for people of older age to stay mobile and use the network as well. In fact, it's a popular thing to do for a lot of pensioners and families during the weekends. And as you can tell by the bike parking at this cafe, many of the small businesses along the recreational cycle route benefit from that. When it comes to infrastructure, the needs can change depending on what kind of cycle trip people take. Compared to how we typically view commuting trips, the needs for recreational trips are almost turned upside down. Getting to your destination fast is less of a priority for recreational cycle networks, and attractiveness and experience is much more important. People may value the width of a narrow, meandering path like this much more than a wide, smooth asphalt path next to a busy highway. It's only a positive experience if you don't constantly have to move aside. And to make recreational cycling more attractive, it's even more important that people are able to ride side by side and talk to each other. That way they can have a conversation while enjoying the scenery without being constantly interrupted. The key is to match the width and surface material to the expected use. And the Dutch guidelines actually don't differentiate between recreational cycling and commuting. The recommended width just depends on a different peak time. For routes used primarily for commuting, this may be a Tuesday morning. But for routes used primarily for recreation, this could be during a Sunday afternoon in July. While trips for commuting and recreation are usually separated in time, there could of course be conflicts between the needs of different kinds of recreational trips, like here. But to put this into perspective, 80% of recreational trips in the Netherlands were made with a city or touring bike and only 30% on racing bikes. But where conflicts can be expected, it would be possible to add a supplement for the width, or to divert faster cyclists to the roadway, or maybe even a different route entirely. My recreational cycling experience in Denmark has been a bit different. I used to live in Helsingborg in Sweden, where I would sometimes take the ferry across to Helsingør and then continue by bike. So, for example, I would go to Gilleleje to have some ice cream in the harbor, or visit the castle and the gardens of Hillerød. And I even went to Ørø one time together with a friend. And while I just loved all of the ferries, I think they make for a nice break, I was sometimes surprised by what came around the corner and just following the signposted route. We would occasionally be dropped out into a road like this, and we would have to ride in the shoulder while car traffic was passing us by at 90 kilometers an hour. I did not feel safe using the network like this. And the fact that I can't rely on the network, that the signposted network includes parts like this, means that I don't feel comfortable even considering cycling here with my son. But the potential is there. There's so many nice places in Denmark, and it's just a matter of connecting the pieces in a reliable way. And regardless of the name, recreational network doesn't have to only benefit recreational cycling. The recreational network in the Netherlands overlaps with the commuting network, and that way it can strengthen both types of trips. And the wayfinding also caters for this. It's a bit hard to see in this image, but the red signs show the most common option for commuting, while the green signs offer a more scenic alternative recreational route. And to show one example of how this functions, this is the commuting trip that my wife takes to work. And as you can see, this is part of the same network that we use to visit the cafe as well. And she can choose a parallel route through the more urban area, but she actually prefers the recreational route as it gives her more joy. It's a pleasant break for her after work. And the strength in the network lies in its integration, not just for the different types of cycle trips, but also across municipalities and regional borders. My wife trips actually goes through 4 different municipalities, and they've all worked together and created one integrated seamless trip for her. In fact, the recreational cycle network can be used to access nature, visit cafes, friends, go on holiday, or cycle to work all across the Netherlands. And many people do and really appreciate the node system. This also shows potential for Denmark. Recreational network there could also connect municipalities to nature, local businesses, and each other, and bring cykelglæde for all kinds of cycle trips. Mange tak.
This was a fast run through the 2 networks and the potential to combine them. Very interesting to see the different signposting and using the color code. I love that. I wish I had that in the country I'm based in. Any questions from your side, please feel free to write it in the chat. And I propose we will first listen to the second presentation, and then we'll go through all your questions. But make sure not to forget your question and write it in the chat. And in the meantime, I'm happy to welcome and introduce Bernhard Ensink, another Mobycon colleague of mine, who has been involved in the development of the aforementioned project for the Danish wayfinding system that Mette mentioned. Bernhard Ensink has, prior to working with Mobycon, he has been the Secretary General of the European Cyclists Federation, but he has also worked in local politics before as an alderman and deputy mayor of a Dutch town called Koevoorden, which is also his hometown. So he is someone living in a rural area where he had been responsible, among other things, for spatial planning portfolio. So Bernhard has a very a high level view on collaboration and the political dimension and the connection between things. And he will share with us 3 examples from the Netherlands how planning for recreational and daily cycling networks can be done in an integrated way. What's the org-ware behind? Bernhard, I'm happy to give the floor to you.
Thank you, Dharma. The main message of my presentation is the cycle networks for recreation and transport should be connected, and the use of these networks should be promoted to all target group. And this needs collaboration between different authorities and stakeholders. I focus in my presentation on the collaboration of Dutch, public authorities in 3 different provinces, where the integration of recreational cycling and daily cycling plays a role. In the Netherlands, we have 12 provinces, and the province is the regional public authority, the authority between the local level and the national level. Let's start in the northern part of the Netherlands, in the province of Groningen. The capital is the city of Groningen, and the smallest municipality has only 12,500 inhabitants. Some municipalities and the province realized, actually, we don't know what surfaces of the recreational cycling routes of the recreational cycle node network we have. We don't know if there are road safety challenges on the roads. And the province realized that there are silos in the administrations. Some civil servants are focusing only on cycling as a mode of transport, others only on recreational cycling. And the parliament of the province wanted to inform the sports cyclists better about where they could cycle on the network. These challenges were identified by the provincial bicycle agent. The bicycle agent is an important person for the collaboration of the province with the municipalities and between the municipalities. It started with a call from municipalities and led to a concrete project of organizing a common inventory of the underground of the recreational cycle network. The initial idea was that the municipalities could work with volunteers, but the bicycle agent realized that the province should be in charge of the project. The province decided to offer some financial support to municipalities for professional support of their work on the inventory. 9 out of 10 municipalities used the 5,000 euros vouchers to spend on professional support. Another project from the province of Groningen, together with the province of Drenthe, is to inspire people to go out cycling on the recreational routes along the cycle highway between the city of Groningen and the city of Assen, the 2 capitals of the provinces. The authorities realized that they should promote recreational cycling to the users of the new cycle highway, and vice versa, recreational cyclists to try out the cycle highway. You see here a detail of the map for the recreational routes along the cycle highway. The map shows in red the recreational routes and the points of interest to visit. The green line is the cycle highway. A nice special project for promoting cycling to families with children is the children's bicycle route. Children love to play games and to solve mysteries. From the point of view of a healthy lifestyle, promoting physical activity to families is very important. For this, they use in Groningen the recreational cycle node network by pointing the people to starting points for the children's route, and these starting points are the nodes in the network. The province subsidizes municipalities to join this project. The project is a good example of how the interests of the health departments come together with the interests of the departments for recreation and tourism. We move to the southern part of the Netherlands, the province of North Brabant, with 2.6 million people and 56 municipalities. Brabant is much bigger than the province of Groningen. I will tell you a bit about a concrete project of the integration of a bicycle highway and the recreational cycle node network in a minute. That project would not have been carried out if there would not have been a certain collaboration already between the cities. A closer collaboration of 5 bigger cities in the province of North Brabant started when the first cycle highway project was carried out. The province and the 5 cities realized that closer collaboration makes sense. They started to work on the realization of more cycle highways based on standard agreements among the authorities. The authorities realized the importance of common promotion of the new infrastructure to different target groups. This meant the inclusion of the recreation sector. Finally, they brought together two existing collaboration structures to give a boost to the promotion of the new cycle highways. For promotion, 1% of the amount that was spent for infrastructure was available for promotion. These two structures work together now, an organization on promotion of cycling and a network of businesses that works on accessibility. Ons Brabant Fietst means our Brabant cycles. It promotes cycling on behalf of the province and 5 bigger cities. It collaborates with the university, the route bureau, smaller municipalities, and the network Brabant Mobility. This network of businesses works on the accessibility of the companies in the province. The businesses have, of course, good access to their 270,000 employees. A concrete project that came out of the collaboration was linking the new cycle highway F261 to the recreational cycle node network. The idea behind the project is that cycling for transport and recreational cycling enforce each other. The first step was that the companies promoted the use of the cycle highway to their employees. The second step was the creation of special signs at nodes to promote the recreational cycle node network to the users of the cycle highway and vice versa. Here you see the special signs they developed and the panels they placed at the nodes in the cycle network. Let's move on to the center of the Netherlands, the province of Utrecht. The capital is the city of Utrecht. Another bigger city is Amersfoort, but they have small municipalities with only 6,000 inhabitants as well. Meanwhile, we have in the Netherlands a network of cycle highways with a special numbering, as you see on the map at the right. The map is, by the way, from a national collaboration structure called Tour de Force. In this national structure, public authorities, businesses, societal organizations, knowledge institutes, and platforms work together to give a boost to cycling policies and projects in the Netherlands. But I want to tell you a bit more about a special agreement between the province of Utrecht and municipalities. To build the cycle highway F1, the province agreed with 5 cities on how they work together in this project and how they finance the realization. As the city of Amersfoort had no capacity at that time to work on the realization of their part of the cycle highway, the city agreed by another agreement that the province will build the route on their ground. A few details from the two agreements are that 65% of the investment of in total 11 million euros will be paid by the province and that the municipalities only pay 35%. And the province and the municipalities work together to get the national government on board as well. The national government subsidizes the 35% parts of the municipalities. In the realization agreement, things are agreed about the access to the ground and that the province arranges the permits to build. The link of this kind of project to recreational cycling is that the measurements of users of 4 cycle highways include the reasons for the rides. Therefore, they know now for the F1 how many people use the road for recreational cycling nowadays. This kind of measurements are useful to base politics on. To conclude, what can we learn from the projects I talked about? There are challenges authorities have to be aware of if they want to integrate recreational cycling and cycling for transport. There is a gap between policies for cycling as mode of transport and for recreational cycling. And this gap is often visible in the structure and the culture of administrations. They often work in silos. Cycle routes and networks are crossing borders of municipalities and regions, and sometimes even of countries. The collaboration of different public authorities needs structures. And there is often a lack of knowledge about the current infrastructure and road safety issues of networks for recreational cycling. So what does work if you want to integrate recreational cycling and cycling for transport? Awareness of the common interests of different authorities and in different policy fields is important. Identify these common interests. It makes sense to use structures that are already there. If you can't use existing structures for collaboration, you need to create them. And money works. If it is clear that your municipality benefits financially from collaboration with other authorities, it helps to get your city councils to support your projects. And collaboration across the borders of the administrational silos works. By the way, once started, civil servants really like it. Cycling promotion achieves goals in different policy fields. This awareness is a good start for collaborations with other authorities and your colleagues in other departments. Finally, the picture here shows the construction work of a bridge for the cycle highway between the capital of the two Dutch provinces, Groningen and Drenthe. For me, it is a nice symbol for what I was talking about. Creating bridges between authorities, different policy fields and different stakeholders to integrate recreational cycling and cycling for transport is a good mission. I wish you lots of success with that mission. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard. Thank you very much for those very clear insights. Excellent. So we have just heard first from Robin what can be done for those two networks, how that works, what the needs behind are. And second, we've heard from Bernard how it can be done. But before addressing your questions from everyone in the room, I'd just like to address as well the why. Let's take one more look why we do this. Robin, you have shown us that the needs of people using or cycling for recreation and those cycling for commuter purposes are basically the opposite on the pyramid. So can we be very clear and very concrete once more? What are the advantages of integrating the recreational cycling and the bike and the commuting cycling given the difficulties around that?
Yeah, well, I don't actually see those difficulties. I think it's more, I see the mutual benefit of doing it, because by providing different options and by integrating the networks, you actually give people the choice to pick the route that is most comfortable to them. Because as like what the trip from my wife showed on her commuting trip on the way back, she prefers to use the recreational cycle network because it gives her more joy. So that can be an argument for more people to start cycling, even though it doesn't fulfill this typical idea that commuting should be fast and as direct as possible. Giving people those options and integrating the networks then actually can add value for a lot of people and a lot of different kinds of trips. And if that helps us to get more people to cycle, then I see a lot of benefit in that.
And are there any disadvantages in combining the networks? You say you don't see the challenges, you see the benefits, but are there any disadvantages if we really look into it?
Yeah, I think we just have to be mindful of the different needs. So each kind of trip has different needs. So yes, for example, there are cycle superhighways that cater really much to commuting, and they're direct and they're fast. But if they only cater for that, they're maybe not as attractive for recreational cycling. It could be like, for example, if we take a cycle superhighway along a highway, that may not be that attractive for recreational cycling. So in that case, maybe you need something in parallel that is more for recreational cycling. That's what happens in the Netherlands as well. We have the difference between the red and the green signposts. But it's more about being mindful of that and trying to cater for both. So I think in that way we can actually cater for both.
And when would you say, can you describe this moment? When does it make sense for recreational trails and dedicated bike lanes to share the routes? How do we identify the piece in the networks where it makes sense for them to go together?
Yeah, it's really by looking at the entire network and integrating it. So within the network, if it makes sense to combine the two, then that's fine. And then we need to look into what kind of trips can we expect, when will they happen, and do we see any conflicts between recreational cycling and commuter cycling? And if we do, we can look into ways of mitigating them. So if we can see that there would be an overlap between people on racing bikes and commuter trips, then that is something that needs to be mitigated. But in many cases, it will be the case that it will be separated in time. And then it can be a really efficient way to combine the two, because you can just build more parts of the network with less money.
So you stay attentive in the process and
Yeah.
remain able to act and correct and move on. And maybe one more question before we'll take the audience or the participants' questions. If we are looking to Denmark specifically, we have the Danish cycle superhighways. Many of them are leading towards the capital region or the main cities, the bigger cities, in very direct routes. And when would you say they should, or can we consider them being part of both networks? Because building super cycle highways are a major investment. It takes a lot of capacity and money to actually build them. And once this has been done, what do you say? Should we consider them part of both networks, or are they clearly a commuter network and not suitable to also be part of recreational cycling networks?
I think they can definitely be part of the recreational cycle network as well. The key there lies in the integration by combining both networks and giving people the options. They can choose the route that is most suitable for them. So yes, if it's along a highway, it may be direct. It may be fine for commuter cycling, but in some cases, that may still be the best option for a recreational trip as well. And the other way around, if there is a parallel route that is less direct but attractive, that may be nice on certain days when people are trying to get home and just want to unwind from work. So the key lies in the integration and allowing people to choose whatever works best for their needs.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Robin. So let's take a look into everyone else in the room. Do you have any questions or comments or any experience you would like to share from your work? I've not seen any questions written in the chat. If you prefer to speak, you can also maybe use the raise hand function or write in the chat that you would like to speak, and I can give you the word. And please don't be shy that this is in English. If you feel very uncomfortable and you prefer to write or speak in Danish, we'll find a way with the support of Mette and Ida to still answer those questions as well. So the floor is open to all of you who would like to share some thoughts. Who goes first? We can wait a little bit until everyone gets warm and comfortable to raise your hand or ask a question or share an experience or any concern. Where do you stand? Have you considered, do you have considerations integrating those two networks in your area? So Kristen Engerström asked the question, sorry for my pronunciation. So she's asking, what is the experience when planning for the two different networks? You talk about silos, but has it been possible to get the administrations to work together, and how? Very important question, Bernard. I think I'd like to address that to you.
Thank you for the question. I think that my first example from the province of Groningen shows that even in such a developed cycling province where cycling is very developed, they admitted to me this year that they did not think enough in the past to work together from the different point of views of commuting and of recreational cycling. So what they saw is that they developed a cycle node network just from the point of recreation and forgot to pay too much attention to the infrastructure and to road safety issues. And that's, you can say, a result of working in silos. So if you bring these people together, the civil servants from the recreational department and the, let's say, road in construction department, then you have all the expertise and all the, let's say, the interest on the table. And that works. So if you do a common inventory and you know from the road department where the road safety issues are and the infrastructure issues are on the cycle network, they did already develop and signpost, then you realize that you have to do a job on that network and that you can maybe offer to people for commuting sometimes a different route, as Robin was stressing all the time, that give people different options. So how it works, yes, if you don't bring the people from different departments around the table to focus on one thing, give the best cycling infrastructure to both target groups, then it will not work. But if they work together, I think it is really fun and very successful, and it benefits gives financial benefits because you don't do double work in the administrations.
So you're making it a strong case, Bernard, to work across administrative boundaries and the cross department and the cross silos. But how? How can we give a boost to this kind of cooperation? This is not how administrations are being built for, usually.
Yeah, I think all this work is people's work. Civil servants, politicians, managers, these are all people, and people like to be successful. They like to work with other people that go for the same mission. They like to drink a beer together. They like to be inspired by the same, you can say, lectures or presentations. So to give a boost to this kind of collaboration, I think you should bring the community of people that are involved in the cycling policy areas together, from recreation, from tourism, from infrastructure, from road departments, but even bicycle shop holders, cafe holders, etc. All the people that have an idea that they should contribute to great cycling in the country and in the rural area, for example, and that they all can benefit. And this gives a kind of vibe, this gives a kind of inspiration that to the people, and when they come back to their desk, I think they will talk to their managers, and the managers will talk to each other, that they have to build structures. Maybe they have to create a committee. Maybe you have to start a series of community building events 4 times a year with a beer, with a barbecue, and these kind of things. This all helps. And if you don't have formal structures between municipalities that are there, you can rely on, and you know the people to call, it costs a lot of time. But if you have built these structures and this community, it works very quick.
Yeah, you're making a case for both formal and informal networks, and maybe it's also my experience that this is also in German administrations is such a key element. If you actually know these people in those neighboring administrations or actors or stakeholders, it's not all administrations, and maybe we should all kind of take a minute after this webinar and think, okay, do I actually know these people? Have I ever met them? And yeah, do a little check whether to know the people. Yeah. Okay. There are a couple of additional questions in the chat now. Also some comments. That's great. On this topic we have just been discussing. It said in the chat, I think that it will help if both administrations are invited into the project from the start, and to focus on the importance of connecting the transport network with the recreational network. Yeah, very early on. That's a very good point. We have another question, very concrete on Denmark. Robin, are there enough small roads in Denmark for such a network? Or do we have to create new roads and actually then deliver such networks?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's hard for me to say. I don't know all of the small roads in Denmark, but from my personal experience from cycling in Denmark, I didn't experience a lack of small roads. I think the main challenge for cycling was then this reliability of the network, making sure that at least being able to rely on a network that if I follow the signposted route, I will have a network that is safe for me to use. I thought that was for me a bigger challenge than a lack of small roads. But it may, of course, depend on region to region. And if there aren't enough small roads, then maybe there's a need to build more, or to build dedicated cycle infrastructure next to, like, the road that I showed in my presentation. Definitely there, it would have been nice to have a dedicated road. And I can see, I mean, for some of the trips I saw that there were dedicated cycle paths being constructed. We actually had one situation where it was being constructed and then halfway through it ended and we had to actually switch to the main road. So there is progress being made. But yeah, on the scale of the entire country, it's hard to say.
Yeah, there's also the question, do you have standards or recommendations for cycling infrastructure on the recreational networks? What standard should apply?
Yeah, so from a Dutch perspective, so in the Netherlands, the standards aren't actually different. So for example, for the width, for the surface material, it all depends on what kind of use is expected. So we always look into what kind of use do we see for this part of the network? What kind of interactions can we expect? What's the peak time? Is it during the weekend or is it during the week? And that then defines how wide the infrastructure should be, what kind of surface material should be used. That's not different between commuting or recreation. What is different is that the focus, of course, changes. So we can see that for commuting, the needs are more focused on travel time and on directness, whereas for recreational, it's more about this experience. So the experience part becomes more important within the standards as well, ensuring that people can ride side by side and have this conversation while cycling, not having to stop all the time, and being more separated from busy roads. Those kind of things are then more important for the standards.
Yeah, talking about the standards and seeing that you say there are not major differences between the standards for recreational or commuter cycling networks and routes, then this once more opens that question. So what's actually, again, the goal behind the integration of those networks? Now, we've touched up on the why and the benefits there are, but so maybe we can still get this why stronger and those goals clearer. Is it about this interconnectivity between cities, or is it mainly economic, or is it maybe climate protection or health aspects? So what would be the driving forces behind to create this clarity and also get the why very clear?
I would say that money works. So you can save some money if you pay attention, you can say, to your road infrastructure work from the perspective of different target groups. Absolutely. You can save money when you do measurements and you count, you can say you bicycle traffic, that you integrate questions why people do the right and what they say about needs they want to have, you can say, solutions for. That's one thing. And the other thing is, I really believe that if you want to promote cycling and that people should more go out cycling, go out to nature, to enjoy smaller enterprises, you can say, along cycle routes in the rural areas, etc. If they love that, there will be more people that consider to go, can say, for commuting with their bike and vice versa. And this is the idea behind the in any case, 2 projects I talked about, that the common promotion to different target groups in a very professional way can bring more people cycling on the routes you create for them. So then you have, you can say, more benefits from the investments in infrastructure than if you would not do that promotion. So enforcing the 2 worlds, to realize that the 2 worlds enforce each other and that you can save money in your promotional work and in your infrastructure work, I think are 2 good reasons to think about integration. And I saw one remark about the protected nature in a question. That's a big thing in the Netherlands as well. And I saw one remark that somebody wrote in the chat about that you have to involve the stakeholders in time. And I think that is exactly the solution. If you do this community building for everybody and all the organizations that have an interest in cycling, even if they suffer from too many cyclists in their nature area, bring them together around the table, let them together identify what are the challenges are and what kind of solutions they can identify, you can say, to point the people in the right way through that protected nature. That will work better than waiting for the conflicts and having the negative stories in the papers.
Are protected nature reserves and recreational cycling networks an issue in the Netherlands? Is there any experience concretely to share? Because I assume the person who wrote this comment has experienced issues. So do you have any concrete experience with that?
Yeah,
like disturbance for the natural environment?
In the Netherlands, you see it from time to time in the press, and you can say you hear it from colleagues working in different parts of the Netherlands. There's always this issue that you want to protect nature. If you get too many hikers, too many bikers in the area, the impression is that they disturb, you can say, wildlife, that they don't respect just to cycle on the paths that are built for them, that they cross through the nature and these kind of things. You can't solve everything by infrastructure, but you can solve by communication and by enforcement of rules. And of course, to think about how can we inspire the people to use our nature for joy, but not disturb nature. It is really the necessity of working together with the people that are responsible for the nature areas.
Yeah, so it's a dedicated balance. Maybe interesting for all of you to know that in Germany, there's currently a new regulation in discussion to protect the woods, and it includes very strong restrictions on public use by walking and cycling. And this is a scenario all the cycling advocates in the country are trying to prevent now, that we would no longer be allowed to cycle through the woods, which affects the recreational part of it significantly. And well, we all hope it will not be that kind of balance, because that's also not really a balance anymore in my opinion.
And the network there, like providing the network of recreation, like providing the recreational network can also really help to encourage people to enjoy and access nature in a responsible way.
Yeah, that's it's always about a balance in this. That's definitely correct. And also with regards to the network, we had a map in the chat, if for those who haven't seen it yet, that shows that there are apparently 32,000 kilometers of existing roads in Denmark that could cater for recreational networks. So there is a lot of potential, as has been mentioned several times now already. Thanks for that map. That's always good to see. And Bernard, before you said integrating the 2 networks leads to more benefit for the investment that has been done, because things cost money. And this is strongly related to a question that is very essential about how to convince local politicians to support cycling, to see the benefits of a strong network, to actually make resources available, both in terms of money and staff and people who can deliver those networks. Do you have any experience on the subject? And I think, yes, Bernard, you have experience with the subject. So how can these messages reach those politicians and people in power to progress?
I think I have worked in advocacy as well. It always helps if you ask yourself the question, what are the interests, what are the political goals for different parties, or for different speakers for the different parties, or for, you can say, the elderman for a certain policy field. Take the example of the health department. Although the health department is not only curation, but it is prevention as well. So if they have a strategy of prevention for, you can say, you should be more active, people should more going outside, not to sit behind the computer all the day in these kind of things, then you can come in and to say, hey, I have something for you. I have something for you. I can help you to do work on prevention. If we do a project, if you point the people to a certain infrastructure, we have to improve, by the way, a little bit the infrastructure, is then the story, but then get them on the bike, and the families will love it, and the elderly people need active movement, etc. So these are aspects then for people, politicians, managers that focus on prevention in the health sector, and you offer them something. Then they are more ready to support, you can say, infrastructure improvements that cost money for the route networks. If you give them a project for promotion then as well, and the politicians can join the opening of the route, these kind of things, then you get them on board. So you need more people on board than just the speakers for traffic and road safety. You need the whole city council and the whole government to support cycling as a solution for not only transport, but for recreational and for health aspects as well. And if you go to the economic department, you have to show figures what it means for the smaller enterprises to have a good recreational cycle route network, and maybe a good attractive region for people to come from abroad to cycle in your area. So mix the benefits that cycling offers for the different policy fields, and you get better support. And at the end, you have to show that it is financially a good thing for, you can say, the budget of the city. That always counts. And if you can organize some subsidies or some benefits from collaboration, then you can say the responsible politicians can present to the city council, I have something, it costs 10 million actually, but by the way, we do it in a way that it costs only 4 million. Then you are the winner.
So you're saying we probably need broader support and broad coalitions, and it's not a one-factor game. It's really about the partnerships and the wider game. And then this is basically the direct translation from the political world to the administration world. If we say, let's work beyond silos, that you need those broader collaborations, meaning looking beyond what you've been kind of also trained to focus on. Maybe also the question into the room, have you experienced barriers in integrating those networks? Have you tried or considered or taken any steps or had any conversations about this? Or if not, have there been reasons for this? Or has it never been on your mind? I'd be really curious also to hear a little bit from your experience in the room. Is there anyone who would like to share some experience there?
I could say something from the planner perspective. My colleague Christine published the map in the chat, and that is for most part of Denmark. We have together with our colleagues in the consultancy outlined a possible recreational network for Denmark. In the process for that, which has been the last 3 years, we experienced that many of the municipalities move the argumentation from one part of the municipalities, mostly started in tourism business, towards other plans in their process of spreading out the knowledge of the network, and also connecting the network to other kinds of policy in the municipalities. For example, rural area development, health area development. So what we see is that it started somewhere and it spread out. And I think that is also something that we have learned from this. And I think the connection between city center and rural area, this connection between that is also a way on how to underline the argument for the integration of networks, that there are many benefits of it. And yeah, so I think we have had some good experience the last 3 years in this area.
Yeah, and thanks, Mette. And maybe picking up from there, how much knowledge is needed to do this? You know, how much technical knowledge also still needs to be acquired, or would you say anyone who is able to plan a network for either recreational or commuter cycling would also be able to bring those together, and it's a matter of doing it rather than capacity building, or you know, are there any specific also infrastructure considerations, for example, in the moment where those networks need? So what about the necessity of knowledge in order to deliver these integrated networks?
Yeah, that's, I think one part is understanding the needs of people and understanding then what the network should look like, how it should be safe, how it should be separated from car traffic, or how car traffic on local streets should be traffic calmed. So that's more technical knowledge where maybe capacity building is needed. But at the same time, like, the other aspect is aligning on those goals and aligning on the vision, aligning on the budgets. That is more like lobbying and talking to people, and I think that's the start. So for that, I don't think capacity building is necessarily the first step. It's more about then making those connections and talking to people to take that forward.
Maybe to add from my side, I think all the knowledge about, you can say that when it is dark, what is then the challenge for cyclists? When it is wet, what is the challenge on the path? So this if you create great, you could say, recreational routes that could be used by commuters in a great way, but maybe not all the year. So and this is what you saw in our presentation about the green and the red signposts. So in my neighborhood, I have, you can say, the same green and red signposts. Would not follow. Was a German city called Meppen, the green route in the dark in the winter. I would not do that, because you can expect that it is not maintained, that there are dark, you can say, sections that you would not easily, you can't easily go through. So this kind of awareness in the administrations, I think actually it is there. You have to bring it together from a certain point of view, from the needs of different target group in your cycling community. I think that's very important. And by research, by surveys, you can identify from your population, from the users, what they meet as challenges in their daily cycling. And the cost of surveys, yes, they are there. But if you do surveys in a frequent and in a standard way, it is something that in professional organizations should be done to base your politics on. And if you do that not only for, you can say, your subject, but you do surveys for different things you want to know from different departments, then you have to find in the different silos the money where they can fund these kind of surveys, and then everybody puts €1 on the table, and then you have 5. So that's a little bit the way to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's on the awkward again. Here's one more practical question. How about the wayfinding and the signal of the cycle superhighways as a fast lane? So how do you communicate about the different kinds of cycle infrastructure? That's a new challenge.
Yeah.
What experience do we have there?
I think that's key. And we're innovating on that in the Netherlands as well, how to convey what people can expect from the network. I think that's really important. So that's also where we have then the difference between the red and the green sign. It's still, I think, not always clear for a lot of people what it means. So I think we can be better at that as well. But it definitely, in some regions, they're working a lot on, like what Bernard showed in his presentation, that shows that what you can expect from the different networks. Cycle superhighway means one thing, a recreational network means another thing, but still keeping in mind that different users may use different parts of the network and may use sometimes a piece of the commuter network, sometimes they use a piece of the recreational network. So it doesn't always fall in those two categories. And the base is still that it has to be safe to use.
What works in the area where I live, and this is in the Netherlands, but at the German border, so I know both sides in that rural area, that they organize, you can say, cycling days, maybe 4 Thursdays in a row in 1 month, where they start at the sports club somewhere, and then they have 4 different, you can say, routes, and they end with some food and drinks. And then you can show to the people, you would say, via a route, what kind of infrastructure is there. You can do the same for families, you can do the same for children. We have in the province of Drenthe, it's a Dutch province, you have, you can say, 4 or 5 days in a row in a week. It was very popular in the past, especially for senior people. Then they don't have to care to find the best route through the province. They have catering allowed route, but you show them what kind of infrastructure you have in the province and what they can expect if they go for themselves on a route. You can say what a sign means, what it points you to, what kind of infrastructure. And what I showed in the project is that people that never did ride a cycle highway, so organize something that they just try it out, and they will have a great experience. And that these kind of things, you can say, promotional software measures are very important to get the people to the great experience that you offer them on your infrastructure.
Yeah. I mean, the risk if you don't do that is that if people, they may not try the network because they assume it is what they've always seen before.
So you say that communication and promotion goes beyond signs that are there, right there on the ground. And Marie is asking, do you also have online maps or apps that show the integrated networks as a supplement to those physical signs on the street, so that someone can plan either the greenest route or the most direct route, or depending on their needs of that day? Do you have such online resources?
Yeah, exactly. So there are maps of this recreational cycle network that are available, and also they're integrated with the commuting network. So the route planner can be used, and it will show you like different kinds of options. You can combine the different nodes together. Some regions even include like the local cafes and other points of interest, so you can include those in your trip. So already when you're thinking of doing a trip like that, you can figure out where you want to go for a cafe, or see different options along the way, and you can adjust while you're cycling.
That's nice. I would like that in my surroundings to plan my family weekend leisure trips. And sticking one more second to communication and promotion, Bernard, you said that the Dutch province of Brabant allocates 1% of its funding for the Dutch cycle highways to communication and promotion. 1 full percent. As far as I know, this has not usually been the case in infrastructure projects, to have a certain share of your budget allocated to promotion and funding. And so does that mean we'll see a more and more increasing role of communication, or is it more mirroring the needs or the confusion, or what is it a good sign, or is that something to be concerned about?
Oh, actually, it is a good sign, I think. If the money is there, then you have the opportunity to spend it. You don't have to ask first for the money, and then you can say after 3-4 years, maybe you have the funding found. And it is this awareness that the first time people have to use that infrastructure, or target group that don't cycle too much, are a very important target group for, you can say, mobility policy in the Netherlands. And I think this is something what the Netherlands realized. If you would have asked me 30 years ago about what is the only and main thing, then the Dutch expert would have said infrastructure. It is only infrastructure. So we had to learn that infrastructure is very important and the basic, but the communication, marketing, promotion is another pillar that you have to use to get the people, you can say, on the bikes, especially special targets group like families that did not try out cycling, people with a migrant background that even are not used to cycle, commuters that are always went by car, to find something to change the life to commuting by cycling. These are special marketing target groups that you have to address, and actually it works because all these projects that brought people from the car to cycling to work, there are always these stories that almost nobody changed again back to the car. So that's, I think, many success stories from the promotion projects.
And I think we've also learned over time that like those needs are really important. And it's not like, even for commuting, it's not only about the most direct and fast routes. It's also about this experience. And I remember seeing some videos from the cycle superhighways in Denmark as well, where it also talks about people's personal experience and that they enjoy using those routes because it gives them exercise along the way, or similar to my wife, they can wind down after work. So that is also part of the communication, not just that it's a direct option, but also that it provides you a nice personal experience by using the network.
We did not talk too much about, you can say, the challenges with accessibility for the big businesses. I mentioned it in the project in Brabant, but this big thing in the Netherlands that you have, you can say, these very urban areas, urbanized areas with, you can say, highways and a lot of congestion. And employers realize that they should help the authorities to do good mobility management actions, and this includes promotion to get, you can say, their employees for the shorter distances on the bike to the plant or to the office, or in the combination of cycling and public transport. So accessibility will be something when the rural area will be successful. The rural areas will have accessibility problems as well.
So we are getting to an end with hope and the potential that we see. Just before we close, as I don't see new questions coming in, but I would like to pick up on one comment that has been made in the chat in between. This is jumping back to the question of the silos and working in the administration, because in the end, all those potential that we see cannot be deployed unless people make it happen, and people working in public administrations are absolute key here. And the comment that has been made here is really asking, so how can we find those shared goals? It's not obvious how to do this, because so the comment is, it's difficult to engage other silos because the other silos expect us to service them. They take it for granted that we service for recreation or provide for recreation, for transport, for health. They have other focuses. Does it work if one area move and the other one doesn't? Or how, it's a key challenge. How would you say, how can these shared goals be identified?
Shared goals are identified by people, and people are working in administration departments and in silos. So you have to find a way to bring them together in a good mood, you can say, to talk about each other's strategies and to invite each other if they build a new mobility strategy or a new strategy for tourism or for, you can say, economical development in the area, so that you don't forget to invite all the people that have a stake or have the possibility to contribute to great cycling, you can say, promotion and infrastructure. So if you bring the people together in the right mood and you do workshops and afterwards you have a beer, that works. And then they are involved in, you can say, putting interest on a map and into a strategy. And if they are cited then in the document, you have them on board. I think that works. In the Netherlands, we have several cycling communities, for example, in the city of Utrecht, where they bring people together at late afternoon with a drink, do presentations, etc. And then they know each other. They can call each other, and then they invite each other to each other's strategic workshops or whatever. So that works, in my opinion.
It's the people. It remains the people's challenge, but it also means it's doable because it's the people behind.
Yeah. The other way around is, of course, if you have, you can say, highly inspired politicians, mayors that want to have it happen. Okay, they can move a lot of things and inspire their people as well. But finally, the administrations have to do it.
Yeah, goes both ways. There are like I know from Heidelberg, for example, and from Munich, they both invested a lot into transforming their kind of infrastructure planning departments into mobility departments, and within this one administration itself, they've tried a lot to break those silos that are within their transport departments, and they went for cycling trips, and they closed the office for a week to go into a long strategy process. They've been trying out quite remarkable things, in my opinion, very interesting to witness if any one of you is interested to learn more. All right, great. I would like to thank you, Robin and Bernhard, and turn once more to all the participants in the room. If you have a chance to let this past hour, think a little bit, what is maybe the one thing that you all take with you once you leave this webinar in 10 minutes? So just give us a little bit of feedback in the chat. Please write a word or a sentence. What is the thing that sticks to your mind? What stands out for you? What do you remember still this evening when you're back at home at the kitchen table with your families? What's the one thing that took your attention today? So please write that in the chat so we can get a little bit of an idea and feedback from your side. So we see common promotion strategies, inviting all the stakeholders when planning new routes. How important it is to market the note system to users, to also tell them. And while we let people type and think, you have to be able to rely on the network. Simple, but true. Informal talks. Yeah, to combine transport and recreation better. Getting everyone on board. Bernhard and Robin, what would your one thing of today be that you share at the kitchen table tonight if your kids ask? So what did you learn today?
I look forward to cycling in Denmark again, actually.
Yeah. Bernhard?
No, I would say that when I look to the questions that we have an engaged audience that I hope likes to work on that mission, and to work together from different departments, different authorities, from different point of views, to work on that great thing that cycling is for the people. And what I feel you can say in this kind of webinars is that you bring people together that really want to make the difference in their work to have that great thing happen, cycling by all the people. That's a great thing.
Yeah. It's the people. We also have the common national lead on developing the network. And it's not rocket science, but it takes a lot of people agreeing and to move forward. Yeah, I think for me also, I think what I take along here is that it's a quest to bring those formally separated worlds of recreation and commuter cycling to grow together. There are great benefits, but it's the key to success seems to be really this joint and shared mission and goal. So it's actually possible. And before we wrap this up, I would like to hand over to Mette once more. Tell us, what can we expect next? Where do we go from here?
Thank you very much. And thank you from the studio in Delft. That was very interesting. And Dagmar from very professional facilitating this webinar. It's been great. And I think a lot of interesting questions. What I would like to say to the participants before maybe you just finish the webinar is that the presentations will be available on our website, and in a couple of weeks we will forward the presentations or the link to our website, so you can download the presentation and share it with your colleagues, and maybe look at the presentation together so you can have some discussions seeing it again. We will also sum up on some of the questions and discussions here in the room together with Mobycon, and present a one-pager to highlight some of the common issues that we have looked into today, and use it in the further development of the recreational network in Denmark. And finally, I would also like to promote that we next week have a conference in Korsør in Denmark, focusing on recreational development in Denmark. That is both cycling, hiking, whatever. And we still have today as a deadline for signing up. We have almost 200 people joining us from all kinds of mobility forms, discussing hiking, cycling, water sports, working on this area, policy, how to do it, international experience, and so on and so forth. So you're most welcome to join the conference. You can look into our website, or even in my email, there is a link the email you got from me yesterday. So I think that was my finals for today, and thank you very much all for joining the webinar. Dagmar, would you like to wrap it up?
Yep, thank you very much, Mette. Thank you also to the presenters and everyone in the background to help make this happen, and most foremost everyone who participated. Thanks for dedicating this hour and a half, and for making this whole thing in English so we can facilitate some knowledge transfer across borders. I personally love that, and I'm glad that you all took up that challenge this morning. And that leaves me to wish you all a wonderful rest of the day. And I hope you'll leave this room with some inspiration and considerations on how we can progress in integrating the work we've done and deploy the most of it and benefit the most from the investments we take. Thank you all, and I hope to see you soon at any upcoming occasion.